Okay, here we are. We are live. Bernie Finn, MP. I don't think you're supposed to say that out loud, but that's how it's written. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday. I'm sure you'd rather be with your family doing Sunday fun day things. But
Well, my family's split to the four winds at the minute, so I've got to go and collect them all as the afternoon progresses. So we'll have a chat to you first, and then I'll hit the car and do the pickups.
Great. Well, I'll just let everyone know at home that I purposely didn't research the Green Deal before this interview, so I actually don't know exactly what's going to come out of this because, Bernie, I was really surprised that I didn't know about this. You'd think someone would have told me. I feel kind of bad that I didn't know about it. So, do you want to tell me what is? Well, firstly, did it pass through Parliament?
It did. Well, the motion to support it did. That was a motion put up by the Greens, and I thought, oh, here we go, the Greens again doing what the Greens do, and I just dismissed it as being a bit silly, and I got up and gave them a bit of a pull through and told them a few home truths. But much to my consternation, the government got up, members of the government got up and said they were supporting it, and I was just flabbergasted. I could not believe what I was hearing, that members of the Victorian government were supporting this ratbag scheme that comes out of the United States originally, surprise, surprise, from California, surprise, surprise, from AOC. And that's where it originally comes from. And the Greens have jumped onto this. And now Daniel Andrews and his government have jumped onto it. And what really scares me enormously at the moment is that next week we have a budget. And I've got a feeling that in that budget we are going to have the sort of wild expenditure that the Green New Deal demands.
Okay,
because
so
what we heard the other day was Samantha Ratnam, the leader of the Greens, get up and deliver a list of a wish list, if you will, of spending that would fair income curl your hair. It's extraordinary. I mean, if you got even half of that, it would put us in debt for generations. My grandkids, probably my great-grandkids, probably my great-great-grandkids would still be paying off the debt if Labor were to introduce some of these ratbag schemes that the Greens want us to do. Now, look, as I said in the House the other day, it's great to be able to spend money. I've got a wish list too. I'd like a Mercedes in my driveway. I'd like a beach house at Lawn. I'd like a one-way or sort of one-way, a first-class ticket around the world every year. A whole range of things that I'd like, but I can't afford it. And what these people don't understand is that this is taxpayers' money we're talking about. And they don't seem to care. They just don't seem to care. And what this goes back to, if I can put it in a little bit of context, it goes back to the fall of the Berlin Wall, the fall of the Soviet Empire. When communism was on the nose, when nobody wanted to talk about communism and the benefits that it brings to people, and the left around the world said, "What are we going to do here? What are we going to do about this? Where do we go now?" And they said, "Well, the environment is clearly the way to go. We've tried every way to this point to destroy capitalism in the world, and we failed. The environment is the way to go." And if you look at some of the environmental policies that the left promote throughout the world, including Australia, it's all about the destruction of business, the destruction of capitalism, and making people dependent on the government.
Okay, so let's talk specifically about.
People.
Sorry, it's
Sorry,
hard.
Monica.
It's hard because of the lag, but I want to talk more specifically, if you don't mind me asking, about what Samantha Ratnam is imposing and where does she want this money to be spent? Can you explain what that means for Victoria and what it looks like?
Well, basically, it comes down, and Andrews and Ratnam are at one on this. They believe that the renewal of excuse me, it's not the virus. I've just got hay fever. The renewal of Victoria will come not as a result of small business or big business for that matter, but as a result of government spending, which is your classic socialist thinking. And that, Pallas said that. Tim Pallas said that. The Treasurer said that earlier this year, that the government's going to spend us out of this. No mention that, as I say, the government can only get money from one place, only from one place, and that's from you and us, you and I, from us. That is the only place that they can get money from, but they are going to spend and spend and spend. I mean, Victoria was already in some dire financial trouble before the Wuhan virus hit. But now it is diabolical. What it'll be next Tuesday with the budget, I fear to think. And if Andrews is serious about throwing his lot in with the Greens on this Green New Deal, then Victoria, as we know it, is finished. And I seriously say that we will not recover. We will not recover from this for many, many, many generations. That is, if we can recover from it at all.
Okay, so it hasn't been fully passed and all that. It hasn't.
No. This was a motion calling on the government to do this, that, and there's a whole list of spending that the Greens wanted. And as I say, I anticipated that the government would dismiss it as fanciful, but sadly not. Sadly not. And they jumped. They embraced it. I could not believe what I was hearing. And as I say, I've got a feeling that the budget next week will be perhaps the first part of that. I mean, I don't anticipate that Andrews will stand up and say this is the Green New Deal, because that would create all hell to break loose. But what he will propose and what Tim Pallas will announce next week will be a very big part of that.
That's okay. Don't worry. So can I just ask, is there anything that we can do to campaign this? Like, when will the decision be made? Are you saying the decision will be made in the budget on Tuesday? Basically?
Yeah, well, I think the budget. I think that the decisions have already been made. I think it'll be announced in the budget. I think at the start of it will be announced in the budget, because they've already decided that it's going to be a huge spending budget. This is going to be the biggest spend that we've ever seen in any budget at any time in Victoria's history. And that in itself, given that we're already in, we're already in debt to the tune of some $75 billion that we're aware of, $75 billion, that's $75,000 million. That's where Victoria stands at the minute. That is a conservative estimate. We're probably in debt for much more. What we're going to be like in a week and a half, you just fear to think.
But businesses haven't been doing well this year. Where is that money coming? We're not paying enough tax.
I mean, the thing, Monica, you have to realise.
Not enough tax.
Monica, the thing you have to realise is that this government, I mean, the left generally, whether it be this government, which is an extremely left-wing government, the most left-wing government in Australia, or the Greens, who are obviously an extremely left-wing party, they don't care about business. They see business as the enemy. And they are very, very happy to destroy business, in particular small business, because small business is a symbol of independence. It's a symbol of people standing on their own 2 feet and looking after themselves. And that's not something that any socialist wants. Socialists want people dependent on the government. You know, they want us not to be able to think for ourselves. They want us not to be able to pay our own bills. They want us totally dependent on the government at all times. And that's what all this is about. You might recall a few years ago, we had a thing called a carbon tax. Now, that was supposedly about protecting the environment. But you might remember Julia Gillard, the Prime Minister of the day, and God, how can we forget that? She kept saying, this is a great economic reform. And she wasn't lying, because this had absolutely nothing to do with the environment. It was everything about taking from those who had a bit of money and giving it to those who perhaps didn't, or just giving it to the government generally. I mean, it was an economic reform. It was a socialist reform, and what the Green New Deal will do is have that writ large, beyond all words. And I fear to think what's going to happen in the US with, if Biden gets up, because that's still a very big if. If Biden gets up, I fear to think that the US is going to go down this path as well. And if the US goes down this path, and if we happen to get a Labor government at the next election, which is, could be next year, could be the year after, Australia will go down that path as well. And at that point in time, we are in an enormous amount of trouble. Nobody should be any doubt that this is a very deliberate ploy by the left to destroy business, to destroy capitalism, to change the way our countries operate. This has nothing to do with trees. This has nothing to do with koalas. This has nothing to do even with kangaroos. This has everything to do with destroying the way that we do business, the way that Australia operates, the way that the Western world operates. You've got to see what's come out of China this year, and the Wuhan virus has already done a great deal to hurt capitalism in the West.
It has sure.
Right through North America, through Asia, through Europe, Australia, everywhere. It's just been quite extraordinary. You can't tell me that it was coincidental, I have to say. No, but that perhaps is a topic for another day. Well, but this is following on. This new Green Deal is following on from that. It's been pushed by AOC, who is a complete nutbag, I might say. I mean, she is one of the more dangerous individuals on the face of the earth just at the minute, particularly if Biden takes the White House, because she will have a great deal to say. With Kamala Harris as VP, she will have a great deal to say, and that should be something that we should be very, very fearful of, because these people have an agenda which is truly horrifying.
But Bernie, I thought they really cared about our health and safety and well-being. Isn't that?
No, they don't. No. Right, what they care about is their agenda.
Yeah.
What they care about is pushing policies which will destroy our independence as human beings.
Well, it's already happening.
That's basically what they want to do. They want us totally, completely dependent on the government for everything. They want, and once we're dependent on the government, they control us. Mm-hmm. And we've seen plenty of that in Victoria this year already. But they will control us in every way. And if we don't do the right thing, they'll pull the plug on us.
Well, you know what, Bernie, you're actually usually quite an optimistic person. So for you to say that means a lot. But I hope that actually these things coming in like mandatory this and mandatory that, testing, vaccinations, it actually will give people a lot more courage than they ever had, and I think movements will actually grow. That's just my optimism.
Yeah. I got to say to you, Monica, if people have ever thought before of needing to fight, God, they need to fight now, because this is the biggest threat to the Western world we have seen since the Second World War.
It's bloodless, which makes
that is the truth. That is the truth.
It's hard to put it's like an emotionally abusive relationship. It's harder than physically abuse to prove. There's no bloodshed, so it's just like words, but it's just as bad, and it's actually worse because it's like it just gets in your head and it just changes your whole. But,
the problem is by the time people realise what's happened, it will be all over. We won't be able to get out of it. So we have to be on the front foot here. We have to be proactive, because if we don't, we're going to be stuck in a situation that we're not going to be able to get out of. We're never going to be able to recover from, and this nation will never be the Australia that we know and love ever again. So, and that's something that horrifies me.
I know, and coming from you, I think that's horrifying actually, because like I said, you're usually optimistic. But with the budget coming out on Tuesday, there's nothing we can do. They're just going to come up with the budget, and there's no campaigns, there's no opinions, there's no cross-referencing. No. That's it.
No, that's it. I mean, the only thing that we can do to save Victoria is to remove this crowd in November 22.
Oh, that's happening.
I mean, that is the ultimate, the ultimate saviour of Victoria. If Andrews and company get back in, if Andrews is still there, but if they get back in, you can put the glasses down. It's all over for Victoria. We are in diabolical trouble now. We'll be in greater diabolical trouble next week. But if Andrews gets back, if Labor gets back in November 22, it's all over. The game's over. The last person to leave Victoria, turn out the lights, because you're going to see. And I'm surprised that Queensland didn't take advantage of this because I thought that if the LNP had won in Queensland a couple of weeks ago, half of Victoria would be up there shortly. But
yeah.
excuse me.
So, okay. So the budget's coming out. There's nothing we can do about it. We just need to wait till 2022 to get rid of him. Now, and I think we will, but that's just again my optimism. But
we shouldn't. Monica, can I say we shouldn't wait until 2022? We should start now.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, this is going to be. You know, we've got 2 years to go, and that seems like a very long time, but it's not. You'll be amazed how quickly that will go, and we have to start now, and we have to start at the grassroots. We have to spread the word of what this bloke is doing to our nation, because there's still, or to our state rather, there are still a lot of people, as you saw by the latest opinion polls, still a lot of people that think he's great. You know, they think that, you know, here's this bloke, he saved us. Well, he saved us from him. You know, that's the bottom line. You know, you don't thank the arsonist if he puts out the fire that he started. And that's what's happened here in Victoria. You know, nobody can deny that Daniel Andrews is responsible for starting the second wave. Nobody can deny that was responsible for smashing the economy in Victoria, for smashing small business, and nobody can deny that was responsible for the deaths of 800 people. Now, who is ultimately responsible for that? That is Daniel Andrews. And there is no getting away from that. That is a simple fact of life.
Yeah, look, it's true. I would argue that those 800 probably would have died from the common flu anyway. But that's
many of them probably would. Many of them probably would.
But anyway,
but you know, the fact of the matter is that he's used this 800 deaths as a reason to keep us locked up. And I don't call it a lockdown. I call it a lock-up because that's what we've been locked up.
Have you seen the new branding on his wall?
It says, it's very impressive, isn't it?
It's.
I wonder how much that cost us.
But do you get the same feeling that I did, that it's quite threatening? Stay safe, stay open. I think he's kind of saying, if you don't follow the stay safe directions, then I'll close you back down.
He'll close us down again, and that is done very deliberately.
Everything is.
I mean, you know, everything is done with this crowd, with a message in mind, with a threat in mind. I might say as well, because that threat, as you say, is pretty clear. Do as you're told, or we'll lock you up again.
And he's proven that with the actions that he's done by fines. Anyway,
I can only hope that he may have learnt from last time, and that he won't stuff up next time. You know, you can only hope. I mean, could he be as stupid as to do that again?
We'll see. I don't know. It's very windy here. Okay, I have two more comments I want to make. Firstly is if Andrews isn't going to get in, now I'm just going to say that we need an alternative, and some would say that the Liberal Party hasn't been as aggressive as they could have been. I think you could have gained a lot of members and things like that. So the Liberal Party, and this is from me to you and your party, you guys need to stand up too and be an alternative, you know, which would be great. But that's just a comment that I wanted to make. But secondly, I don't know if you're allowed to talk about this, but you know that the mandatory vaccination situation is a very hot topic right now.
Yes, it is.
And Scott Morrison has, you know, he said it's not mandatory, but then there's these other things coming out. You know, are you allowed to share your opinion on that?
I'm not a fan of mandatory anything, I have to say. And I mean, I don't know what's going to be in this vaccine. I obviously have concerns from an ethical point of view as to what may be involved in the production of this vaccine, because if it is coming from the body parts of children killed in abortion, obviously I've got some real concerns about that, some very grave concerns about that. But I'd like to sit back just for the minute and just see what is going to happen, because you know, I have in the past, you won't believe this, Monica, but I have in the past been known to step out before I should have. And I might have learned from that mistake, and I might try and avoid that on this occasion.
Yeah, well, that's fair. You've said enough anyway, and just so that everyone knows who's watching, there is a submission for they're changing the AIR legislation, saying that every vaccination sort of provider has to tell who they are vaccinating, and what that would do is basically show who isn't vaccinated. So either way, it's a breach of, I think, privacy and ethical standards. So there's that closes at midnight, and so I've done a huge campaign today, and I don't. Do you know who's behind that inquiry, Bernie?
Look, I think it'd probably be the feds, I would imagine.
Well,
Federal government, I'm assuming. I've not heard of that inquiry, I have to say.
Neither
but
have
I assume, I assume it's the federal government, and I would hope that they would listen to that. If they're holding an inquiry, because Daniel Andrews, as we know, holds inquiries, gets the results, and throws them in the bin. I would hope that the feds would listen to what people have to say and their concerns, and if those concerns are justified, they should take them on board.
Yeah.
If they are not justified, well then people's minds should be set at rest.
Yeah.
I think we've still got a little way to go, and I don't think anybody's seriously talking about mandatory vaccination just at the minute.
Well, I mean, they're saying it's not going to be mandatory, but they're saying there's going to be implications of travel and restaurant, which is basically a similar thing, but in a very manipulative way.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, we'll leave that conversation for another time, Bernie, when we know more information. But it's the conversation's definitely coming up very soon, I believe, and it's definitely mainstream. And I'm not anti-vax either. I'm just pro-freedom. I don't think anyone should have to do anything. And what's quite interesting is the slogan for pro-abortion is "My body, my choice." And it's very strange because the paradox there. Anyway, Bernie,
there's not a lot of logic in that whole entire argument.
No, but look, is there anything else that you would like to say before we let this go and you can go pick up your daughter?
Well, look, I just want to repeat what I said earlier. That the West faces a real threat at the moment. I'm talking about Australia, the United States, Europe. This has been driven by people who are not our friends. This has been driven by people who want to fundamentally change the way our nations operate. And that is something that each and every one of us should be very, very concerned about and very, very committed to stopping. Yeah. Because if we don't stop it, it's going to happen. There's nothing surer. It will happen if we don't stop it.
Who would have thought medical terrorism would be such a... fundamental.
Yeah, no, it's quite extraordinary, and these Greens, we know what they're like throughout the world. They're no different here in Australia, and they will use the environment. They will use anything they can get their hands on to destroy a system that they hate, that they detest. Many of us, most people, I would suggest, are beneficiaries of the system that they want to destroy. Yeah, and that's something that we can't allow to happen.
Well, you need to keep fighting for us, Bernie, and when the vaccination mandatory situation comes up, I think you'll have our back, so that's good. if it's made with bad stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we'll let it go now, Bernie. Thanks so much for your time. And
no worries, Monica. Have a great day.
All right, thanks. Bye.
See ya. Bye now.